I was sitting in my apartment in Seattle when the email came through. The subject line read, "Christmas invitation," and the sender was someone I had not heard from in 8 years. My mother. My hand shook as I clicked it open. 8 years ago, my father had pointed at the door and screamed at me to get out and never come back. Now they wanted me home for the holidays. Part of me wanted to believe they had changed. But something felt wrong. Why now? After all this time? Before I dive into what really happened, that Christmas, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from? If you have ever felt betrayed by the people who were supposed to have your back, hit that like button. And subscribe. Because this story is about to show you why some bridges should stay burned. Now let me take you back to where it all started 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I was 20 years old, and life felt pretty good. I was in my 3rd year studying mechanical engineering at the University of Washington. I had been dating Amanda for 2 years. We met in a coffee shop near campus during my freshman year, and she was everything I thought I wanted. She studied psychology, had this way of making everyone around her feel understood. We moved in together after dating for a year. A small apartment near the university, nothing fancy, but it was ours. My family lived in Tacoma, about 40 minutes south. Middle class, stable, normal. My dad, Frank, managed operations at a logistics company. My mom, Patricia, taught 3rd grade at an elementary school. I had a younger brother, Dylan, who was 2 years behind me. We used to be close. I mean, really close. Growing up, we shared a room until I left for college. We played basketball in the driveway every evening after school. We went on fishing trips with our dad every summer up to Lake Chelan. Sunday dinners at our house were loud and full of laughter. My younger sister, Diane, was the baby of the family, still in high school back then. I brought Amanda home all the time. My parents loved her. My mom would always make her favorite pot roast when we visited. Dylan seemed to get along with her too. He was finishing his senior year of high school, trying to decide on colleges. I helped him look at engineering programs, told him about my professors, what classes to take. I thought we had that kind of bond, where nothing could come between us. I was wrong. It was a Friday night in November. I had planned to spend the evening at the library working on a project that was due Monday. Around 9 p.m., I realized I had left my laptop at the apartment. I figured I would drive back, grab it, and head back to campus. The apartment was only 10 minutes away. When I pulled up, I noticed the lights were on. That was normal. Amanda said she was staying in to catch up on reading for her classes. I walked up the stairs to our 2nd floor unit and pulled out my keys. But when I turned the knob, the door was already unlocked. That was strange. Amanda was always careful about locking the door. I stepped inside. The living room was empty. I could hear sounds coming from the bedroom. My stomach dropped. It was not the TV. These were different sounds. Voices. Movement. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I walked down the short hallway. Our bedroom door was slightly open. I pushed it wider. Dylan and Amanda were in our bed. My bed. Their clothes were scattered on the floor. Time stopped. My brain could not process what I was seeing. It was like watching a car crash happen in slow motion. You see it, but your mind refuses to accept it as real. Dylan saw me first. He jumped up, his face going completely white. He scrambled for his jeans, nearly tripping. Amanda sat up, pulling the sheets around herself. Her eyes went wide, and tears immediately started streaming down her face. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out at first. Then finally, barely a whisper, she said, "Wayne, I can explain." But what explanation could there possibly be? I stood there in the doorway, frozen. I could not move, could not speak, could not think. My little brother. The guy I taught how to throw a spiral. The guy I helped with his college essays. In bed. With my girlfriend. In my apartment. Dylan finally got his jeans on. He was stuttering, his hands shaking. Bro, this was not... It just happened. We did not mean for it to. His voice trailed off because even he knew how pathetic that sounded. Something inside me snapped. Not into rage, exactly. It was colder than that. It was like everything I thought I knew about my life just shattered into a million pieces, and I was standing there looking at the broken glass. I turned around and started walking toward the door. I heard Dylan behind me, his footsteps quick on the hardwood floor. He grabbed my shoulder. Wayne, wait, please, just listen. I spun around. I did not think. I just reacted. My fist connected with his face. I felt his nose crunch under my knuckles. He went down hard, hitting the floor with a thud. Blood started pouring from his nose immediately. Amanda screamed. I looked down at my hand. It was shaking. There was blood on my knuckles. Dylan was on the floor holding his face, blood running between his fingers. I did not say anything. I just turned and walked out. Got in my car. Drove. I drove around Seattle for hours. I did not have a destination. I just drove. Eventually, I ended up in the parking lot at Green Lake Park. I sat there in my car as the sun came up, watching joggers and people walking their dogs like it was just another normal Saturday morning. My phone had been buzzing nonstop. I finally looked at it. 47 missed calls. My mom, my dad, Dylan, Amanda, Diane. Text messages filling up my screen. Around 7 a.m., my mom called again. I do not know why I answered that time. Maybe I was too exhausted to ignore it anymore. Her voice came through immediately frantic and tearful. Wayne, you need to come home. Dylan is at the hospital. What have you done? Hospital. The word hit me like cold water. His nose, I thought. I broke his nose. But hospital seemed extreme. His nose is broken. My mom continued, her voice shaking. The doctor said he might need surgery. How could you do this to your own brother? I felt like I was in some kind of alternate reality. She was asking me how I could do this. I opened my mouth to respond, but she kept going. Your father is furious. You need to come home right now and fix this. Right now, Wayne? I hung up, sat there for another 20 minutes. Then I started the car and drove to Tacoma. When I walked into my parents' house, everyone was there. My dad stood in the living room, his face red veins visible on his neck. My mom sat on the couch, tissues balled up in her hands. Diane was in the corner looking scared. And Dylan sat in the armchair, his nose covered in bandages, both eyes already turning purple and swollen. My father did not even let me close the door behind me before he started. You broke your brother's nose. He was shouting, pointing his finger at me like I was a stranger, not his son. I took a breath, trying to keep my voice steady. Dad, he slept with Amanda. In our apartment. In our bed. I do not care what happened. My father's voice was ice cold. You do not hit family. Ever. The words hit me harder than any punch could have. I looked at my mom, hoping she would understand. Mom, I said, did you hear what I said? Dylan and Amanda were together. They betrayed me. She shook her head, more tears spilling down her cheeks. I heard. And I am disappointed in both of you. But Dylan is hurt, Wayne. You could have killed him. Disappointed in both of us. Like what Dylan did and what I did were somehow equal. I felt the room spinning. This was not real. This could not be real. They were taking his side. Diane tried to speak up from the corner. Dad, maybe we should hear Wayne out. Maybe there is more to this. My father whipped around to face her. Stay out of this, Diane. This is between me and your brothers. He turned back to me. His jaw was set, his arms crossed. I want you to apologize to your brother. Right now. The words sounded insane to me. Apologize for what? For reacting when I caught them together. For the violence my dad said. That is what we do not tolerate in this family. I do not care what Dylan did. You do not raise your hand to family. I looked around the room. My mom would not meet my eyes. Dylan stared at the floor. Diane was crying quietly. Nobody was going to defend me. Nobody was going to acknowledge that maybe I had a reason to be devastated and angry. I am not apologizing, I said. The silence that followed was deafening. My father's expression hardened even more, something I did not think was possible. Then you need to leave, he said, and do not come back until you are ready to make this right. I looked at each of them. My mother turned away. Dylan kept his eyes down. Only Diane looked at me, her face full of pain. So that is it, I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. You are choosing him. Nobody answered. The silence was my answer. I walked out and closed the door behind me. I heard my mother start sobbing as I walked down the driveway. I did not look back. 8 years passed. I was 28 now, living in Seattle, working as an engineer for Boeing. I had a decent one-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill, a small circle of friends from work, a life that was mine and mine alone. I cut off contact with my family completely. Blocked their numbers. Blocked them on social media. I built a life where they did not exist. The only person I stayed in touch with was Diane. She reached out through email about 6 months after everything went down. She had moved to Portland for college and kept her distance from the family too. We emailed back and forth every few months. She kept me updated on things, even though I told her I did not want to know. She told me Dylan and Amanda got married the year after the incident. They lived in my parents' house. Dylan never went to college. Amanda dropped out. They both worked retail jobs. Diane said the family never talked about me. It was like I had been erased. I moved on. I had to. I went to therapy for a while, worked through the anger and betrayal. I dated a little here and there, nothing serious. I focused on my career. I learned how to be okay on my own. And honestly, most days I was. Then one night in early December, I got home from work and opened my laptop to check my email. There was a message from an address I did not recognize at first, Patricia Thompson at the email provider. It took me a second. Then it hit me. My mother. Her name was Patricia Thompson. I had not heard from her in 8 years. My hand hovered over the mouse. Part of me wanted to delete it without reading it. But curiosity won. I clicked it open. Dear Wayne, it read. I know we have not spoken in 8 years. Your father and I would like to invite you home for Christmas dinner. It would mean the world to us to have the whole family together. Please consider it. Love, Mom. I read it 3 times. My heart was racing. What was this? After 8 years of silence now, they wanted me home for Christmas. I grabbed my phone and called Diane immediately. She picked up on the second ring. Wayne. What is wrong? Did you know about this? I asked. Did you know Mom was going to contact me? What no? Wait, what happened? I read her the email. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Finally, Diane spoke. Wayne, do not go. What do not go? Something is off. They have not mentioned your name in years. Like literally years. And now suddenly out of nowhere, right before Christmas, they want you back. Come on. I know it seems weird, but what if they actually want to fix things? What if they finally realized they were wrong? Diane let out a bitter laugh. After 8 years? No, there is something else going on. I can feel it. We talked for another hour. She tried to convince me not to go. But there was a part of me, a stupid, hopeful part, that wanted to believe maybe they had changed. Maybe time had given them perspective. Maybe they wanted to apologize. I sent a reply the next morning, simple and short. I will be there. My mother responded within an hour. Wonderful. Dinner is at 6 on Christmas Eve. See you then. The weeks leading up to Christmas were torture. I could not focus at work. I barely slept. I played out 100 different scenarios in my head. Maybe they would apologize. Maybe Dylan would finally own up to what he did. Maybe we could start over. Christmas Eve came. I got in my car around 4 p.m. and started the drive to Tacoma. I stopped at a store and picked up a bottle of wine, some expensive red blend I knew my dad used to like. My hands were sweating the entire drive. I pulled up to the house at 5:55. It looked exactly the same. Same blue paint, same bushes out front, same basketball hoop in the driveway where Dylan and I used to play. I sat in the car for 5 minutes trying to calm my breathing. Finally, I grabbed the wine and walked to the front door. I rang the doorbell. My mother opened the door. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then she smiled, tears already forming in her eyes, and pulled me into a hug. "You came," she said. "I am so glad." I followed her inside. The smell hit me immediately. Roast beef, mashed potatoes. The same meal she made every Christmas Eve when I was growing up. The dining room table was set for 6. My father stood near the fireplace. Dylan sat on the couch. Amanda was next to him. And Diane sat in the corner, giving me a look that said, "I told you so." My father walked over and extended his hand. Wayne. Just my name. No warmth, no emotion. I shook his hand. It felt stiff and formal. Dylan did not get up. He did not even look at me. Amanda stared at her lap. The tension in the room was suffocating. Diane got up and hugged me tight. She whispered in my ear, "Be careful." Dinner was awkward. We sat around the table and ate in near silence. My mother tried to make conversation. "So, Wayne, how is work?" She asked it like we had just seen each other last week, not 8 years ago. I answered with short, polite responses. Everyone else stayed quiet. We got through the meal. My mom brought out apple pie for dessert. And that is when my father cleared his throat. "Wayne," he said, "there is something we need to talk to you about." My stomach dropped. Here it comes, I thought. This is why they invited me. I put my fork down and looked at him. My dad glanced at my mom, then at Dylan. Dylan finally looked up at me for the first time all night. His face was pale. "Dylan has been diagnosed with kidney disease," my father said. "Stage 4. He needs a transplant." The words hung in the air. I did not move, did not speak. My father continued. "We have all been tested. None of us are a match. But you and Dylan have the same blood type. O positive. You are the best chance he has." I looked around the table. My mother was staring at me with desperate, pleading eyes. My father looked stern, expectant. Amanda was crying quietly. Diane looked furious. And Dylan just sat there looking weak and small. It all made sense now. The sudden invitation, the reconciliation. They did not want to fix our relationship. They did not want to apologize. They wanted my kidney. I set my fork down carefully. I took a breath. When I spoke, my voice was calm. "Let me get this straight. You disowned me 8 years ago. Chose Dylan over me when he betrayed me in the worst possible way. Have not spoken to me since. Did not call on my birthday. Did not call on holidays. Pretended I did not exist. And now you invite me here not to apologize, not to reconcile, but to ask for my kidney." My mother reached across the table trying to grab my hand. "Wayne, please. He is your brother. He is dying." I pulled my hand back. I looked at Dylan. "And what do you have to say?" I asked him directly. Dylan finally met my eyes. His voice was weak, shaky. "I am sorry for everything. I know I messed up. But please, I need your help." The old anger started bubbling up inside me, but it was not the hot, explosive anger from 8 years ago. This was something colder, clearer. "You are sorry," I said slowly. "Now. When you need something from me, "Wayne, please," my mother begged. "We made mistakes. We know that. But this is life and death." I stood up. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. Everyone froze. "I am not going to give you my kidney, Dylan." My mother gasped. My father's face turned red. "How can you be so heartless?" My mother said, her voice breaking. "Heartless," I looked at her. "You want to talk about heartless? Where were you when I needed you 8 years ago? When I was broken and betrayed and you told me to leave? When you chose the person who hurt me over your own son, who did nothing wrong except react like any human being would? We made mistakes," my father said, standing up now too. "But this is different. This is life and death. And my life matters too, Dad. I am not a spare part store you can come to when it is convenient. I am not a backup plan. For 8 years, you made it clear I was not part of this family. So no, I am not doing this." Amanda suddenly spoke up, her voice desperate. "Wayne, please. I know we hurt you, but he could die." I turned to her. "You do not get to speak to me. You do not get to ask me for anything. Ever." Diane stood up. "I am leaving with you, Wayne." My mother was sobbing now. My father looked like he wanted to say something but could not find the words. Dylan just sat there staring at the table. I walked toward the door. Diane grabbed her coat and followed me. As I reached for the doorknob, I heard my mother's voice one last time. "Please, Wayne. He is your brother." I stopped. Turned around one last time. "He stopped being my brother 8 years ago. You all made that decision. Not me." Diane and I walked out together. I could hear my mother crying inside the house. I did not look back. We drove back to Seattle in silence for the first 20 minutes. Finally, Diane spoke. "You did the right thing." "I know," I said. And I meant it. In the months that followed, I went back to my normal life. I did not hear from my family again. Diane told me through a text a few months later that Dylan had found a donor through the transplant waiting list. He had the surgery. He survived. I felt nothing when I read that. Not relief. Not anger. Just nothing. I realized something important through all of this. Family is not a free pass to treat people terribly. Being related by blood does not mean you owe someone everything, especially when they have shown you that your pain, your dignity, and your self-respect mean nothing to them. Forgiveness does not mean erasing your boundaries. It does not mean letting people back in who have proven they will only hurt you again. I do not hate them anymore. I really do not. Hate takes energy, and they do not deserve any more of mine. I just do not need them. And that is the most peaceful feeling I have ever known. I built a life without them. A good life. I have Diane. I have friends who actually show up for me. I have a career I am proud of. I have my self-respect. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you were born into. And that is okay. You do not owe anyone access to your life just because you share DNA. You deserve people who choose you, not because they need something from you, but because they value you. Real family does not wait until they are desperate to remember you exist. I sleep well at night, knowing I made the right choice. Not because I wanted Dylan to suffer, but because I finally learned that my life has value too, that I matter. And no one gets to make me feel like I do not. Not even the people who raised me. So let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where family expected you to sacrifice everything just because of blood? What would you have done in my position? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear your perspective on this. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about standing up for yourself. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it is okay to put yourself first sometimes. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope whatever battles you are facing, you choose yourself. You deserve that. Take care of yourself out there.